I'm Catherine from Optimal Health Coaching, and today the video is about kind of the 5 big lifts that I recommend you do for a variety of reasons. So this is an extension of some of the talks I've been giving recently about why all women should lift weights and why we should lift weights for our hormonal and metabolic profile in order to enhance our metabolism and balance out our hormones. So today I'm going to very, very briefly run through 5 to 7 lifts that I think should be a part of all programs for both men and women. Often women kind of back away from the bigger lifts, but I hope to dispel some of those myths and explain why they're so important for all women. So before we get started, I just want you to be aware that this isn't something you should really jump into the gym and do on your own unless you have some experience with it. Make sure you've got your posture checked first, your range of motion checked, and you know how your body works. Have a good starting level of fitness first is also what I would recommend before you jump in and start deadlifting and squats. So if you have any more questions about that, please let me know. So yeah, these 5 lifts are extremely beneficial because they're functional to everyday life. We bend over and lift, we sit down in chairs, we use our core, we reach and we pull on doors, and we do all these movements throughout the day. And people end up with injuries, right? Because they're not actually conscious of their movements that they're making, and they're reaching and pulling and bending, and if you're not doing that properly, you can end up with an injury quite quickly. So that's another reason why this is important, but also most of the lifts I'm going to show you today are compound lifts, which means if you think about a bicep curl, so if I were to be curling this bar, I'm simply using one muscle, my biceps. It's not super metabolically efficient to go into the gym and do isolation exercises like a bicep curl, whereas the exercises I'm going to show you today use all the muscles throughout the whole body at once. So it's really good to get an efficient workout in, and also just for metabolism after a workout. So there's that. So let's get started into kind of the lifts. The first thing I want to talk about is posture. So throughout exercise and throughout most of the lifts, I want you to think of a tall spine. So the back of your head, your back, and your bum should be connected with a bar. So grab a light bar at home, maybe a broom is usually what I recommend, and make sure that that broom is touching the top of your head, your upper back, and your spine. You can see my top hand is behind my neck, my bottom hand is my low back. So when we think of doing the lifts, we want to think of trying to maintain contact with those 3 points. So if I'm squatting, I have to move my body so that they all stay in contact. If I'm deadlifting, I have to figure out how to move my body so that they all stay in contact. So for example, if I'm deadlifting and it comes way off my bum, I know I haven't maintained a neutral lower back. So I want you to think about that and practice that through all the exercise that you're doing. So first of all, I'm going to get into the squat and the deadlift. The main difference is that a squat is a motion where you're sitting, you're bending into your knees, you're sitting down like that, using your glutes to come up, down and up. A deadlift is when you're sending your hips back and bringing them forward. So extremely beneficial to know the difference between those two before you start to do them in the gym. Okay, let's get started with the deadlift. So I'm going to show you just using this bar here. Maybe if you want to just come just there so you can kind of see me from the side. So this video today is not supposed to be an extensive guide on exactly how all the minor details on how to do each one of these exercises. They can often take years to really perfect them, so I don't want you to watch this video and think you can go in and do a deadlift. Today the video is just more about this is what the exercise looks like, and you can start to get comfortable with it. So with a deadlift, your feet are hip width apart. You come so your midfoot is over top of or underneath the bar. And then what I want you to do is stand tall, get the tummy nice and tight, and send the hips back. That's most important. After you send the hips back, you bend into the knees so the shins come close to the bar. Hands reach down on the bar. So at the bottom, really important things to think about is the shoulder needs to be over top of the bar. So I sit back into my hips enough such that my arm is in a nice straight line. And also, these are your lat muscles down the side of your back. They need to be activated. So this is the thing I find people forget or can't do most when deadlifting is they end up with a rounded shoulder position and their lats aren't activated. Chest press forward, lats activated. So I'll show you the difference if I'm down in this position and if I just have a rounded back like that versus get my back active, push out on my knees by squeezing my bum, and then simply hips come forward, perfect position at the top, send the hips back, lower down. So next in a good straight line, pressing from the heels, and coming down. Really basic deadlift. There's a lot of variations on how you can do a deadlift, straight leg, single leg. Today I've just shown you a 2-leg deadlift. I am going to film another video later on about deadlifting and lifting in regular life. So lifting a suitcase, whatever you're lifting outside. Because sure, this can become easy in the gym, but we need to be well equipped to lift different things in our life. So be sure to check out that video. Deadlifting and squatting are super important exercises for the posterior chain of our body. So basically everything from the head to toe down the back of my body. Reason being, if we think about people's lives, they spend most of the day sitting at the desk like this, right? Everything through the front is just getting tight from being that position, and everything in the back is getting lazy and weak and loose. And then, you know, most of the things we do throughout the rest of the day, sitting in the car, sitting at home, same thing. We're not doing a lot of exercises to strengthen the posterior chain of our body. Deadlift and the squat are helping us do that. So, let's move into the squat now. It's not a really good example right now of how you're going to squat. Normally there's a squat rack and you get right in there. I don't have that equipment to use today, so I'm just going to imagine I have a rack here for us. Also, if you're using the rack, you're going to use one of the larger bars. This is just a small bar I'm using today. So, really basic for a back squat. We find that meaty part of our back, so we're not on our spine. And then feet are a little wider than hips, toes just pointed out slightly. You get a nice tight tummy. You sit right back into your heels, nice and low, and then squeeze right back up. So, things that can go wrong, just very briefly. Sometimes when we squat down and we come back up, I see this through the knees, or I see the knees cave in, or I see the upper body completely round. Those are all, and you're not using the right muscle. So really make the bum work hard, really hold the shoulders back, nice and tall, good posture. Okay, so the next kind of big motion or big lift you want to think about is pressing motions. There's a couple different pressing motions we can do, an overhead press and a bench press. So I'm going to show you the overhead press. When we're looking at an overhead press, like I said, you want to make sure you have some good range of motion, you haven't had any injuries in the shoulders, and your posture's okay first. Pressing a lot of weight overhead with an upper body injury is probably not advised. But that is what I just showed you, what an overhead press looks like. So let's come around this bench. Our feet would be hip width apart. The bar starts up like this, and then pressing overhead, driving the head through, back down. If you have the mobility, you can get the elbows up and have that come right off the shoulders. Yeah, so there's that. And then the next one would be bench press. So again, we're not using the typical bench press equipment. The bar would start up here for you, and you would take that off. Grip just outside of the shoulders, and then make sure the core and the bum's tight. Bring that down to the chest, squeeze back up, bring that down to the chest, squeeze back up. So there's two pressing motions for you. Then we get into some pulling motions. So pressing is using kind of the front parts of our upper body, and then pulling motions are coming into the back. So obviously a little bit more important to strengthen the back for those that generally sit at a desk all day. So with the feet hip width apart, I'm going to show you a bent over row. So it starts just like the deadlift. You send the hips nice and far back, and I want you to find a nice flat back position. Neck, everything is in a nice straight line. Core is as tight as you can to protect the lower back, and then using the lats, you're going to row that bar in. right into kind of, for a woman, just below the bra line, kind of above the belly button area, making sure you're squeezing down the side of your back. So that's one pulling motion you can do, and then another one would be a chin-up. So if you have access to a chin-up bar, doing chin-ups and pull-ups on the bar. There's a lot of progressions up to that as well that I can show you if you send me an email. And then after that, it is always important to do some core work as well. So everything that I've shown you today will, as a result, work the core. You need to have a strong core to do all these lifts. So it doesn't necessarily become important to do a whole bunch of sit-ups. I wouldn't actually even recommend that, as they're not beneficial. But one exercise I do like to show everyone is just a proper plank. It's important to be able to do a proper plank with some of the variations. So I'm going to get down on the floor. I'm not sure if you can catch this properly with the video. But for a plank, we go off the elbows, our bums down nice in a straight line, chest forward, tummy tight. So with the plank, just a couple things to think about. Elbow should be right under the shoulder in that bottom position, and the bum shouldn't be sagging down and shouldn't be up tall. So if you have a room with a big mirror, you can turn sideways, make sure you're flat as a board. Just to start holding that for as long as you can, and then you can start to add some variations to that. So I hope that this video has been a good resource for you, just to kind of get an idea of what big compound full body lifts look like, very, very generally how to do them, and potentially start to incorporate them into your workouts to get some better results. So again, my name is Catherine and I'm from Optimal Health Coaching. Send me an email, catherine@optimal-health-coaching.com if you have any further questions. Thanks.